Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is the Code of Conduct with the King. I am your host, JSpenceTheKing, and damn it, I am back on a Monday, and I feel good. I feel good today. I got my homies with me. I don't normally bring friends on that's outside of the podcast network or outside of like the whole Bills Mafia, really. But I got some family with me, so I'm going to enjoy this tonight. I'm going to bring them in real quick, but before I do, I'm going to talk just a little bit about something that I read today on the Twitterverse that had me kind of like, but it's okay. We don't always have to agree on everything. And today was one of those mornings that there was some stuff on the internet that I was like, nah. But we're going to get right into it. The music is done. Y'all can see my face now. What is going on, everybody? How is it going? How's y'all Mondays going? Talk to me in the chat. What's up? I see my man Jason in here. My man Rich is in here. And I know there's more people because I can see it, but y'all not talking to me. So talk to me. We're going to have a really, really fun episode tonight. This morning, I'm not going to say names or anything because I don't want it to sound like I'm calling people out because everybody's entitled to their opinions. And I think it's good, especially this time of year when people have hot takes and crazy takes. I don't want to call it crazy, but when they have takes, it's like this is the time that the talk gets to going because there's no news. Like right now, you're not seeing anything going on that's worth really any type of conversation as far as the NFL is concerned. So this morning I logged on and I'm trying to find it now because I, you know how Twitter always updates on you when you don't want it to. But this morning there was a tweet and I can't find it. So I'll just go ahead and say it. This morning there was a tweet where somebody mentioned that Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson are not worth $40 million per year average for their contracts. I got a problem with that. And I'm going to tell you why I have a problem with that. Now, it's very, very well known. It's common knowledge, at least in Western New York, that I am not a Baker fan. I'm pretty much like a Baker troll. Like I think I'm like a professional podcasting Baker troll. Not because I don't like Baker. I think Baker, honestly, he is a talented guy. When you watch the film and you watch him play, you watch the games, there's not a ton about Baker that I really am that critical of. The reason why I don't like Baker has a lot to do with his fans, and it has a lot to do with the hype that he got coming out of college. So when he came out of college, I felt like, immediately before the draft even took place, I feel like Baker kind of took on this personality where it's like, oh, I'm the cool dude. Everybody loves me. I got swag. I'm dancing in the circle and everybody loves me. And I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to do all this stuff. So then when he got drafted at number 1 overall, his stock like jumped up out of nowhere last minute, got drafted 1 overall. And he had a pretty solid rookie season. He had a really solid rookie season. There's not many rookies who have had seasons like Baker Mayfield. Okay, those are the facts. That's not anything. Okay, so when I make those statements, Baker played well his rookie year. Baker played well in college. Baker has done a lot of good things. The reason why I had an issue with Baker was like, oh, I feel dangerous, and oh, I do this, and oh, I do that. And he's just talking all this stuff. He has the type of roster. I guarantee you, if Josh Allen had that same roster that Baker Mayfield had for 3 seasons, you give the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen that type of roster for 3 damn years, and you tell me the Bills don't win the AFC East his rookie year, or at least his second year. There's no way in the world that Kelvin Benjamin, you got Josh Allen throwing the damn Kelvin Benjamin. Meanwhile, Baker has, from his first year, he had Landry. His first year. Second year, he gets OBJ. Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me I get 2 studs? Granted, OBJ has some injuries last year, his third year and all that stuff. And there's a bunch of things that you can say when you really break down this conversation. But there's no way in the world I'm going to sit back and just let Baker get all of this super love without throwing out the hate that they gave to my quarterback, Josh. Josh came out the draft as one of the most raw talents. Just like we knew it. Like we knew Josh Allen was not going to be from day one. Like he wasn't going to be, MVP Peyton Manning day one. We knew he wasn't going to be Brett Favre Super Bowl version of Brett Favre day one. We knew that. But we also knew, when you watch this kid, he got a zip on the ball when he throws it that makes me think when he kind of figures out his footwork and when he figures out his release points and other things, it makes me think Josh is going to be pretty darn good. It's just not his rookie year because also he's throwing to guys that can't catch the damn ball. Moving on from Josh Allen, back to Baker. The thing about Baker is now Let's fast forward. Baker is the first quarterback in almost 2 decades, similarly, well, to Tyrod, but not I was going to say similarly to Josh, but Tyrod was actually the quarterback when the Bills made the playoffs that first time after all those years. But Baker was drafted, developed, and led his team to the playoffs. You mean to tell me that that man is not worth $40 million a year in today's NFL? I'm not talking about now. There also has to be a discussion. I'm going to bring my friends in at this point now to kind of get it going, because there's a difference in, in worth and if it's smart. Baker Mayfield is 100% worth $40 million a year in today's NFL. Now, the other name that was in there was my guy, Lamar Jackson. And y'all know how I feel about Lamar Jackson. I'm not about to let no slander about my guy, Lamar, just be out there happening like it's normal. Lamar Jackson is an athlete. He's a freak of an athlete. He has a strong arm. He has inconsistencies throwing from the pocket. He's bad throwing outside the hash mark or outside the numbers. He's pretty darn on point when he's throwing to the middle of the field. I love Lamar. You put Lamar Jackson on any team, he's making them better. So the argument about Lamar not being worth 40, to me, I just kind of like blew that one off. It was about Baker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off. I'm bringing my guy, Rick. So Rick is somebody who I met out here in Phoenix, y'all. So it's weird how life happens, but he's become one of my closest friends at this point. I met Rick. We lived in the same apartment. I don't live in those apartments anymore, but we met at the apartment complex, and we met at the dog park because he has 2 little ones. I got 3 now, but when we met, we both had 1, and then I had 2, and then I got a 3rd. So it kind of happened like that. What up, Rick?
What up, James? What's going on, man?
Thank you, man. I'm you can tell I'm a little worked up already, but
Yeah.
thank you for coming in and doing this with me. I know it's not something that you normally do, but I felt like having a conversation with some friends and just, kind of like I was having a beer today and just talking. So I appreciate
Always
you coming on. And ladies and gentlemen, he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. I just wanted to get that out there early.
Pride and true.
Pride and true. I'll ask you about your team in a little bit. I'm gonna bring in my other guy here. So Bryce, I actually met through Rick. Bryce is now part of my, I put together like a dynasty league on Twitter, and Bryce has jumped in there and he's become one of the guys now. I actually talk to Bryce every day. I talk to Bryce more than I talk to my brother, which is weird, but that's good. I'm making friends out here in Phoenix. So, but you're not in Phoenix, are you, Bryce?
No, I'm in sunny Loma Linda, California. So, it's people don't like to eat cheese out here, which is hard being a cheesehead. They're all about eating that fish out here, biking every day.
Well, same thing. Like I said to Rick, man, I appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. So today we're going to talk about, the top 10 running backs heading into this season coming up. But before we get into that, because that was the topic that we had planned. But before we get into the top 10 running backs of this season, I would like to discuss the topic that I sent you guys this morning when I saw that post. So first, you heard my spiel just then about Lamar Jackson. Is there anything that either of you want to add to Lamar?
No, I mean, Lamar is definitely worth the $40 million a year. Like you said, he immediately comes in and adds value to any team that he's on. The questions I have about his accuracy and his strength with outside the numbers and actually playing in the pocket, that's something that can be taught and developed. He's going to have a little bit lower of a ceiling than somebody who's a natural in that area or that regard. But overall, he immediately adds the value. Any team he goes to, he's going to be a dangerous weapon for them. And that's just, the case in point for it.
Yeah. My argument earlier, and then I'll bring Bryson on that as well. My argument earlier to it was that, his very first season when he relieved Joe Flacco, finally turned their season around. Well, yeah, I mean, Flacco is really buns, and so and I hope my cousin is watching or listen. I hope he listens tomorrow. Either one. So my cousin is a huge Ravens fan, and I like the Ravens. So when I say this, I'm not talking mess. That Super Bowl that you guys won with Joe Flacco was because of your defense. I understand that he got hot in the playoffs. I completely get that he got hot and got it. Mm-hmm. Lamar is so much better than Joe Flacco. Yeah. Joe Flacco was the definition of buns in my book. Like, really, I give Baker too much stuff. it really should have been directed at Joe Flacco all them years ago, but I didn't have a podcast. What you think, Bruce? Bryce, my bad. What's up?
Well, honestly, I think the big thing with Lamar is that the hardest thing for it is going to be figuring out his window. Because with quarterbacks, if you're just going to pay a guy, you're going to pay him at least top 10. You're going to pay him top 10 money almost. Like, for example, Ryan Tannehill. Not a lot of people have him for one of their top 10 guys. But yet, if you look about the numbers and his figures, he falls in right around that figurehead of that. So with Lamar, you're not paying for what you've gotten so far. You're paying what you're going to get. In a way, you do partially pay for his ceiling. Well, he has some limits involving like how he can end up throwing the ball. There's some talk about some of that stuff. Bottom line is that when it comes to getting a first down, he's always tried and true for that. And honestly, a guy like that, you need to be giving top 5 money to, especially when they're ending the rookie contracts. I don't care what escalators you need to add, what things need to fall out for the contract for the team-wise, but you need to pay the man his money. Ask a Cowboys fan how it feels when you play hardball with a good quarterback too long. House doesn't win that one.
Yeah, you play that type of game with quarterbacks, and I was hoping, and sorry, Rick, I was hoping that Dak was like, you know what, screw you guys, I'm going home. Like I really was hoping that he just was like, forget the Cowboys, because the thing is, a quarterback of that caliber, as a Bills fan, I know how hard it is to find a quarterback. So, if you really look at it, the Bills have been without a really, really good quarterback since, some say Jim Kelly, some say Drew Bledsoe. I say Doug Flutie. I'm a Doug Flutie fan. But even still, it's been more than like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years. So, when you're talking about having somebody as solid, Lamar, man, I wouldn't even, and I know earlier you said, it's kind of like paying for what he's going to be. The thing is, though, he's made the playoffs consecutively 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's the league MVP in his second year. And he made it to the second round of the playoffs this year and lost to my Buffalo Bills. Shameless plug. But I'm paying for what you've proven to me. Not even what I know you can be.
Yeah.
I'm praying for what you're proving to me.
And that's also the part, though, is that you find out what the floor is. I mean, minus the Super Bowl, technically what you just described was Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
No, but again, MVP second year actually playing.
I did, but okay. I'm gonna tell you but I'm gonna tell you why I do that, and I get why everybody is on Pat's kahunas. I get it. The reason why I say when it comes to that is because Patrick Mahomes has had even better of a roster than Baker Mayfield, who we're going to talk about next. So when I look at Lamar Jackson as actually really elevating that entire offense. Without Lamar Jackson, that offense does not look the same. I know they don't look the same without Patrick Mahomes either in Kansas City, but you still have Travis Kelce there. You still have two very, very, very one very good running back, and then one that's probably going to develop into a very good one as well. You still have how many receivers does this dude have? You know what I mean? Like, so what I'm saying is, if you give Lamar the same type of team, I think we're looking at a completely different level of Lamar Jackson.
And to be honest, I think that's also why, as much as we like to fill up some time with how much we're going to be paying quarterbacks and what extensions are coming, I don't think any of them are going to be doing deals at the moment for this year because of the fact that we're having a dip in the cap and a rise afterwards. When you consider those things, this is the best year that Baltimore's gone all in. They added Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman. They already have Mark Andrews there. They got Hollywood Brown. They got Dobbins back there doing work. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. When you put that together, this would be a great time for Baltimore to still wait it that one more year, because the fact of the matter is that Lamar could actually, with that offense, with those weapons, do the same type of thing that Patrick Mahomes did of just putting a lot of people in a very quiet place fast. I think, honestly, this is the chance where if Lamar balls out this year, gets another MVP, he's easily going to be the highest paid guy in the league.
You know what? I don't doubt it. I was actually speaking to somebody the other day, and they could not believe when I said, no, I think Lamar and Josh both are in that like 46 to 48 range. The reason why I say that much, a lot of people in Buffalo right now, and I also see Spotrick saying that Josh is going to be around like 40 to 42.
No.
Like it's way too low. Like if he would have signed last year, 40. He's not signing for 40 million, 42 million. It's not happening. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield is going to take up a huge chunk. But before I move on to Baker now, you mentioned that Baltimore went all in. I don't think they did, man. Like Bills fans were super excited about Sammy Watkins, his rookie year, and really his second year too. Injuries have derailed his career. Coming out of the draft, Sammy was a monster. Like everybody was like, yo, this dude is going to be the next A, B, C, or D, whatever. The thing is, I don't think Sammy ever
Yeah.
got to that point. And now I actually think Sammy's not as good as he was his rookie year, which might sound crazy to say, but he's not a number one option. So when those fans still say, hey, Lamar don't have a true number one, which irks my nerves. But when they say Lamar don't have a number one, he needs a number one. He still don't have one. And Sammy, the reason why that statement bothers me is like when Ravens fans complain about that, it's like y'all complain as if he wasn't an MVP 2 years ago. When he was an MVP, he had enough. Oh, it's the MVP. We got the thing.
Yeah.
But now that he's losing. Okay, now it's like, oh, he needs real weapons. Come on, man. The problem is just that he hasn't actually developed his passing game. And it's Greg Roman.
Yeah.
Like it's the problem is Greg Roman. Like he's a great designer of runs. And he's a great coordinator that first 2 years when you don't know what's coming. Once you read the book on the, I think Bruce was talking about the book the other day, Bruce Nolan last week on the Hump Day Hotline was talking about when the book is out on a player. The thing is how much of that book you have to study or how much that book you have to read. So like, for instance, Lamar is a running quarterback in the playoffs. Good teams with good defenses. Yeah, we read that book. We know how to stop the run. We know how to. Okay, we're gonna sell out on the pass. If you can beat us through the air, you got it. But we read your book. You're a runner. This team is running. Let's do it. So the Buffalo Bills shut down that run. He tried to throw it through a pick six in the end zone. Just not the same. It's different when you're talking about dudes like Josh. The book is different. Aaron Rodgers. The book is different. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have a tough time looking at that situation out there. And I just think the book is written on Lamar. And I think it's going to be a tough time to see him elevate as long as Greg Roman is his offensive coordinator.
No, and I agree, because at least when you look at the depth of pass and some of the other things that with the designs of that, you don't see as near many designed open passes that you can be able to throw to a player. You're not seeing near the number of picks. You're not seeing the number of times where they're kind of utilizing some of those things. There's a lot of ISO and a lot of the trees that Greg ends up having his guys run. So for a lot of those, it's Lamar's breaking to the right and looking around because what was supposed to be there wasn't there, because it turns out everyone prepared for that one thing.
Yeah. And like I said, in the playoffs, it's different. Week to week during the season, you're not playing top 5, top 10 defenses every week. Every week, you might play, especially in their division. I mean, Pittsburgh wasn't the same Pittsburgh last year by any means. Cincinnati, damn sure. And like Cleveland, okay, but what I'm saying is you're playing against teams that are like really sketchy. So yeah, you're playing against those teams. You can dominate on the ground and you can beat people as much as you want, but you get to the playoffs against teams with good defensive coordinators and good players, it's over. But we got way too deep on the tangent on Lamar, because I wanted to talk about Baker for a second. So let's get to the Baker. Do you? And I'll ask you both. So I'll start with Rick here. Baker Mayfield, is he worth $40 million a year?
I struggle with this, and we went back and forth on this morning in our group chat, and I struggle with the $40 million price tag. I think Baker is where they need to invest their money. Absolutely. I think he makes the team better. I think he, doesn't lose them games. He will win them some, but he's not the Mahomes. He's not the Lamar. He's not even Josh. I mean, in that category of, the top 5 rising stars, he's probably 4th or 5th. And so I struggle with the $40 million price tag. Now, the reality of the situation and everything that's going on is that the price tag is what the price tag is going to be, because that's what market value is. So yes, does he deserve it? I have to begrudgingly say yes, he deserves 40 million, because that's what the market price is for a good top 12 quarterback right now. And that's just the reality. But do I think that he exponentially makes that team better? Does he carry that team by himself? I don't think so. I don't think that he does the same impact that Lamar has on his team, that Mahomes has for the Chiefs. I don't think he's at that level, but the reality is market value says he's going to get 40 million. Do I think he should be more than 45 at where Mahomes is? No. I think he'll be about 44, 45. Josh and Lamar are going to set the new ceiling, is the reality.
So, okay. So, and I'm going to follow up to you first, and then we're going to run to Bryce real quick. So the issue that I had with your take this morning when you said that in the chat was, okay, well, would you take right now? Would you take Baker Mayfield or Kirk Cousins? And
I
you
would
said you would take Baker.
I would take Baker. And there's multiple factors that play into that. Obviously, Kirk Cousins' age plays into it because, I'm thinking long term. And that point, when you ask that question, do I take Baker or do I take Kirk? I take Baker because I'm going to think long term. I'm going to think build around the franchise. Kirk has 1, maybe 2 more contracts left in him, and then he probably retires. He's not the youngest quarterback anymore. I still think the arm strength of Baker is better, but that's where I'm going to lean if I'm looking at it from who do I take right now.
Well, first, you're right. You're right. Cousins we're talking about only has like 1 or 2 left and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, as Kirk Cousins, if he was a free agent right now, he's making that money. Kirk Cousins is bringing in 40 a year if he's a free agent right now.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you're saying that you're going to take Baker and not take Kirk Cousins, it makes me think that, guys just don't understand value that they're talking. Because if you would take Kirk Cousins or you would take Baker over Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is worth that contract, then you're telling me that Baker Mayfield is as well.
And that's where I conceded the point. Like I said, the price tag got me, but when we talked about it and we discussed it and looked at the actual market value, it's undeniable that Baker's going to pull the 40.
Yeah.
I still think that if all things were equal right now and Baker and Kirk were on the market together, I'm going to give the cap tip to Baker on making more money per year on an annual.
Where are you at with it, Bryce?
Well, see, for me, I'm thinking he needs closer to about 42, only because. So we'll sidetrack for a split second. You look at Patrick Mahomes' deal. What did they do? They paid him 10 years, $500 million, $50 million a year. Roughly, if you look at a 6% increase of what the cap does, at that 5-year mark, about $50 million would be what it would be if you took that price and worked it on its way up at the 6%. If you do that, now what you're looking at a quarterback, what their value will be 4 years from now. If you're looking for what do you want to pay Baker as? Let's say what, top 10 guy? Top 5 guy? If you're the Browns, what are you paying him as? Top 5 or top 10? Because you're paying him one.
If it's me, I'm paying top 10, but the reality is he's probably going to pull top 5 because of, just what he's done in the last couple of years.
So on average, over the next 4 years with cap increase, you're looking at $40 to $43 million is what you'd be spending for him as a top 5 payment for a guy, even if he isn't necessarily that, but between what his floor and his possible ceiling could be, that's really the best call that you have to make on that. Because others, when you consider that if you're going to go get some guy off the street, you're going to be paying them, sure, $10 million less, but you're going to be getting 5 fewer wins a season. So that's why, for example, when we throw out these numbers for these guys, you look at Baker, you look at his resume of work, he has some good seasons. He's had some, not great in terms of like a historically great seasons. Those things still say you should pay him because you think he's a top 10 guy. You have to give him top 5 money to stay. Just like as we end up swinging around to Lamar and Josh for theirs, if they're looking at the top of market for the same time frame, we're looking at 43 to 45 if we're conservative as paying them as top 3 quarterbacks, but closer to 46 to 48, like the number that you end up mentioning, James, on that, where I laughed that you hit the nail on the head for it. That's what you're looking at. The 4-year aggregate average, though, for the top of the market quarterback is 46 to 48 million.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I'm super confused because normally Buffalo is the fan base that's like, oh no, our guy is the best, which we normally say, like, you've seen it, but like they're normally like our guy is the best. He's gonna make 70 million. Like we're always the ridiculous fan base that goes to the deep end, and people are like lowballing Josh, and I'm like, what are you do? $40 million? Are you kidding me?
Nah.
Josh will easily, in my mind, I almost wish that he would have grown like this year coming up and like they signed him this year. Because like if he had like a Baker Mayfield career to this point, we could have signed him for 40 and then have your blowout season this year coming up and we got you locked in. But, my thing is I'm willing, like, it's not my money, but look, with a quarterback like that, you keep his number 1 target, and then you do everything else you got to do. You're going to fill in pieces. People are going to come and play with this guy because they want their stats there. They want to win. They want championships. Josh Allen is still developing that way. So I was shocked that Buffalo fans and Buffalo content creators were like, yeah, no, like 40, 42. Shocked me.
But yeah, remember though, a lot of times fan bases will tend to side with ownership. It's a weird thing. Like I love the guy on the field. I don't love the guy in the press box. I don't have an owner for my team, so I guess it's easy for me to say that.
Yeah.
Bro, I want all these dudes to eat. I want every single one of them to get the biggest contract that they can. At the same time, as a fan, it's like, well, no, I want to fit everybody in, so I want everybody to get paid. I don't know what the hell Brandon Beane is doing, and I don't know what he's putting in the food in Western New York that he's serving to the players after practices. I don't know I don't know what they're doing. But these guys are taking less money to stay in Western New York to remain competitive. Matt Milano signed like a ridiculous contract that nobody predicted. Like he was supposed to make somewhere, I think like it was predicted he was going to make like 14, 15 a year.
He's like 4 years, 44 million. So he's like right at the 11 million mark.
Yeah. And it's just like these guys are taking these type of contracts. So whatever Brandon's doing, Brandon, thank you, and stay. I don't know if Cleveland can do that because that's where this question kind of goes to me. If they pay Baker even 40, that's still a heavy chunk of your cap space. So if you pay Baker Mayfield that, you're going to end up losing OBJ, which I think is going to happen anyway. But you're going to lose OBJ. You're going to lose Landry or somebody. You can't pay your running backs again. You can't pay both tight ends. Defense is hurting anyway. They kind of need to strengthen it. How do you think the team, or, let me ask it like this. Not is he worth it, but should they pay him $40 million a year?
Historically, given the Browns' quarterback status since they became a expansion franchise in '99, absolutely. They do not want to go back to the Tim Couch, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Football days where they're trying to do a carousel of quarterbacks because they can't figure it out. If you're talking about should they pay him because they need to solidify a position that has been a huge question mark over the last 20 years, absolutely.
I'm gonna throw this out here real quick because I know this is about your guy. So somebody said Josh's number will be between Dak, overpaid, in my opinion, and Mahomes. I agree with it will be in between Dak and Mahomes. I disagree with Daniel there as far as Dak being overrated. I'll let you say why you disagree or agree, and then I'll jump. Because actually, I think you almost agree with him sometimes. So I'll let you give your Homer spill, and then I'll jump in.
Well, sometimes I do agree with him, but I mean, right now, looking at it, last season was a clear-cut, just decisive reason as to why Dak deserved the money he got. You look at his win above replacement, and you look at what they did without him on the field, and you look at what they did through the first 4 games with him on the field. It is night and day difference on how that offense runs. You have a deep impact with every other skill player on that team when Dak is not on the field. When we switched over to Andy Dalton, and no knock on Andy Dalton, he did great in Cincinnati for the time he was there, but he's not the same player. He's not the same offense. Numbers that Zeke put up, you look at the numbers that Amari Cooper put up. They're not the same as what they were putting up when Dak was there. And so, looking at it prior to last season, I would have said, yeah, he's probably overpaid at what he's making now. But given the fact that I saw a season without him and saw what it looked like, in your words, pay the man, let him eat, let him get that money and let him eat as much as he possibly can, because the value, the in-game value that he brings to the table is far more important just from a wins percentage than what we're paying in percentage of cap.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing for me about Dak, and you and I have had this conversation multiple times at the dog park. I think when it comes to Dak, just look at the simple stuff. You don't even have to like really break down film. You don't have to be like PFF gurus and all this stuff. Just literally look at the effect that he has on players. If you look at Ezekiel Elliott when Dak is on the field, it is not the same player as when he's not on the field. And teams have to respect it because Dak is there. The Cowboys led the NFL in offense when Dak was behind center.
The first 4 weeks.
I mean, so for and then the season prior as well. Yeah. So like the season prior, that was a prolific offense. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't understand how people, and this is not a shot at anybody in the chat who says that he's over, this is just talk here. But I don't understand how people can look at him as if he's overrated. To me, it's more so like, no, like you just said, pay the man. Like, why did it take so long for this to happen? Like it just, well, you already know how I felt about that. Moving on. Let's close that chapter. Is there anything that either of you want to add to that discussion about Baker and Lamar before we move on?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, I mean, I just know every year a team waits, they're easily giving up about $3 million a year. Basically, you're losing every time you wait another year to pay a guy. So it's one of you're better off signing for the sooner the better. Only thing is that because of the cap dip, you're going to see a lot of players per se trying to use that change in cap, where normally a quarterback gets paid, top end quarterback gets paid 19%, for example, of the cap. If we're looking at a rough average, right now Mahomes' number compared to the cap for 2021, 25%. So that's, I think, the one thing that you might see driving a lot of the lower part of the top 10 up closer and kind of closing that gap, if you will, for some of those guys. So it's one of those, get ready to watch people get paid, because that's just the world we're going to be living in at the moment.
Yeah. It's these contract conversations are so, like, they're heavy, man. And you know what? You know who I wish I would have had on for this? I wish I would have had Greg Thompson from Cover One, but I believe he has a show right now as well, if I'm not mistaken. But Greg Thompson is like, he's like the contract guru. So one of these days I'm gonna have to make sure I introduce you two to him as well, because he's the kind of guy that conversations that we have, you would be like, why is he not in this chat with us? Like that's Greg. So I'll get Greg involved. But now we're gonna move to the topic that we were supposed to talk about, and we just spent a half hour talking about a tweet from this morning. I wanted to talk to you guys about the top 10 running backs heading into this season. And you could do it for, I know we talked about it and it was like, you mean just overall? Are we talking fantasy or what? However you want to attack this question is fine by me. So let's go with it. What I'll do is, you got them itemized, like you got them all listed down?
I got them listed, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, let's start off, we're gonna go position, like number by number. So let's start off from bottom to top. So Rick, I'll ask you yours first. Who's your 10th best running back this season?
I'm gonna go Cam Akers. I think he had a fairly decent season last year. They lost one of the heads of the three-headed running back system, but it's still him and Darrell Henderson there in LA. Sean McVay loves to run the multi-back system, and Cam Akers has a great burst. He's a young guy. He's going to be there to help Stafford a lot and try and alleviate some of that pressure that Stafford had when he was in Detroit. And so I think this year Sean McVay utilizes him a lot. He's going to try and probably run him a lot like Todd Gurley, but different styles. Obviously, there's less unidirectional with Akers. He's going to be more multi-cut than Gurley was, but it's going to be a lot of ground and pound for the Rams this year and try and eat up that clock and save the defense.
Can I just say, I know we're talking about running backs, but can I just say, I love Matt Stafford. Like, I think Matt Stafford is going to go out there. He's going to turn that team around. Like, not that they were horrible by any means.
No.
He's going to do some stuff out there. I cannot wait to watch the Rams, and I can't wait for the Rams to come here to Phoenix for the
that's going to be a great game.
Yeah, we got a home game for it. I cannot wait. I'm actually going to order my Stafford jersey for that game. So, yeah, I got season tickets today. I got like half the tickets. Half the games I'm wearing the away team. So, like, for instance, when the Packers come, I got my Aaron Rodgers jersey. So it's happening. Like, to me, he's the best quarterback ever. But we'll talk about that later. You already know how I feel about that, Bryce. Bryce, who's your 10?
My 10 is actually going to be Joe Mixon. As much as we want to try and break off a foot and a good joke here on it, the truth is that he gets a very high amount of carries and targets of the offense when he's in. Like right now, what I have on at least on my projections, he's going to get about 67% of the carries, which honestly is going to be top 3 in the league.
It is, yeah.
Well, when he's in, he does get the ball. Yes, he ended up having the foot injury, but also I think one of the things that you'll notice a lot going factor in my rankings are guys who get injuries, who get rested, are less likely to have those long-term reoccurring injuries and more likely to have those fluke injuries, like a couple other members on probably both of our lists, as we'll see.
Yeah.
The vision, his yards per carry, it's dipping a little bit. Cincinnati didn't exactly address the offensive line properly. But when you consider the fact that it is the person that would be replacing him in those regards, let me see who I have currently for Mixon. I have Samaje Perine currently lined up back there. And actually, they drafted a guy in the 4th round. So on that, there's not a high amount of someone risking taking his job. And it's a hard factor in with a lot of these running backs, because we're seeing a lot more committees. That we're seeing a lot more, you'll see a lot more guys who are talented, but they just aren't going to be getting the work. And it's really hard at that point to still try to justify that rank if they're not able to take over the game when they're getting reeled back so much.
Well, and I think a thing to that point, Bryce, that's going to help Joe Mixon a lot this year with regards to the injuries and the things that have plagued him recently is that they have a really good wide receiving core again. Like this core, I think, could be up there close to what the TJ Hushmanzada, Chad Ochocinco, and Chris Henry receiving core was back when the middle 2000s, where they were just running crazy, but the receivers were still eating. And I think that's going to pull a lot of those 8-9 man boxes out of play for Mixon to actually get more yardage.
See, the
and
thing
help
is,
Joe Burrow.
I love Joe Burrow, and like I'm excited to see him come back and to see what because he started off so great, like
so solid.
He erased all doubt that I had. Like coming out the draft, I'm like, oh, this guy's a bum. Like he just had NFL talent around him. That's why he looked. No, this dude's for real. I apologize, Joe. Like the dude is he's dope. So, but I still don't know, man. They didn't really address that offensive line.
No,
So as far as Joe Mixon, as far as the run and the passing game, as far as the receivers that Rick was talking about, I agree they have the talent. Man, they got to protect that young quarterback. They have to.
A good run game will do that.
Yeah, no, you're true, but I mean, it will do that, but at the same time, it won't. Like it causes teams to kind of pull back, but at the same time, you can. I think when he got injured, they were rushing 4. I don't even think it was a blitz, man. It's like insane.
Oh no! Remember they had that pre-draft graphic they showed where if they drafted Penei Sewell, it would show him completing a pass to somebody, and if they didn't draft Penei Sewell and they drafted Jamar Chase, they showed Burrow on his back and overthrowing because he got hit by the defender instead. Where it's like they made that come true here, so we might see the living meme this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So okay, well let's get to 9 because I mean we just spent 8 minutes on 10, so let's I'm gonna speed it up here. Go ahead, Rick. Hit me with 9.
I got Chubb. I got Baker's primary back. I got
at 9.
At 9. I got him at 9. Even though Kareem Hunt's there, Chubb's 25 this year. He's still a young running back. I think he can put in the work.
Well, my surprise isn't that he's on the list. My surprise is where he is. You have him low.
Oh, I do have him low. I'm sorry. Chubb is. I'm sorry. I misread it. I was looking at the wrong one. Chubb is an 8, actually. That's my mistake. That's
still low, but okay. Who do you have at 9?
Let's see who 9 is then.
9 is Jonathan Taylor from Indy.
What?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Wait, it depends on how. Like, I gotta hear the whole list because I'm saying what, but there's 10 guys. Okay,
there's 10 guys. Jonathan Taylor's 9, and the reason that is Carson Wentz. I had to ding him. I didn't have to, but my gut told me to bring Jonathan Taylor down a little bit because Carson Wentz and Frank Reich have never really had a prolific run game together. They were more pass heavy than anything. And so I think the receivers and the tight ends are going to eat this year with Carson Wentz being in Indianapolis. But I think Jonathan Taylor, where he's still going to be great and he's still going to get his numbers, I don't think he eats as much as he could have. With maybe if Phillip Rivers had come back. I think if Phillip Rivers had come back to Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor ends up higher on this list.
See, I think to me, I look at it opposite. I think now that they have a good quarterback, and I know that's up for debate. Everybody doesn't like Wentz. I like Carson Wentz. I actually think he's a pretty good quarterback. I think it was a bad situation for him out there in Philly. So I think him going to Indy, I think we're going to see a contender because the Colts were basically a quarterback away from beating the Bills last year in the playoffs. Carson Wentz is better. He's better than the quarterback they had last season. So when you have to worry about the passing game, nobody worries about, like last season, who cared about a deep route when you played against the Colts? Like nobody was thinking about a deep route. This year, you better worry about that damn deep route. So you can't put 8 guys in the box against Jonathan. You just can't. So now, honestly, man, I think he's going to eat something special. I do. But I respect it. 9. What about you, Bryce? Where you at?
I'm actually looking David Montgomery. Reason why I'm doing that, the joy of the fact that Andy Dalton is going to be playing near as many snaps as they try and say in Chicago. Running quarterbacks increase the need to have to honor that. After all, we saw J.K. Dobbins runs last year. Having a running quarterback does have an effect on the running back and their ability to be able to get through the field. Yes, he has Tariq Cohen as his backup, but he's very much a change of pace from what David Montgomery has to offer. And you consider the fact that he's 24, he's still in that prime time going towards getting a major contract. These are usually the time frames when you see guys produce their best years. So for me, even though Chicago still has some things, they have a solid defense, their game plan is going to end up being dedicated to run, especially with close up, as much as they want to try and, you see, when they try and get too fancy and try and reenact parts of the Kansas City offense that are not exactly things that they have the personnel to end up pulling off. David Montgomery running right up the middle, it saves them so much effort from a lot of their terrible planning that they've had on some of those short conversions where they try and slip in a quick pass or they can't get the screen set right. So for me, it's David Montgomery, sheer volume, and his counterpart already has such a different skill set. I think it's one of those, he's going to get the work. He's going to benefit so much from when Justin Fields does get in. So that's where I'm at with that.
I'm with you. I think he's underrated by most, to be honest. But you know what? I also, this won't sound good to you being a Packers fan, but I also think the Bears this season are a little underrated. It depends on that quarterback position. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what they get, because I do think that they have good receivers who deserve a quarterback.
Yes.
Like Allen Robinson
deserves a quarterback.
Like that poor man. Like, can we please get this man what he deserves? What'd you say, Bryce? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, well, I'll donate. Let's everyone kindly, like, we need to do like the Save the Children like thing, just like like for just $33 million a year. You too, you get this.
You too,
give Allen Robinson a quarterback.
Dude, it's so bad. It's so bad. I feel so bad for him. Every season, I'm watching this guy make incredible catches, run incredible routes, put his team on his shoulder, and literally have nobody throw him the ball. But back to the running backs, like, you're right. I think the whole roster is underrated, in my opinion. So I'll stick with you, Bryce. Let's move to the next one here, because we already heard Rick's.
Yeah, it's okay. I have spice also my way for that. This is where I drop Saquon Barkley. This is my Mason Dixon line for him on that, for that right of that, or the Mendoza line, I believe. That's right there at the middle of that. Nope. Barkley, while elite in the talents that he's shown on that, I have a feeling first year back from injury, because there is the risk of him tearing the other knee, as often happens with ACL injuries. You're going to see his workload being pushed back. Devontae Booker was signed in the offseason to be able to be comparable. As we've seen in his absence, the Giants went through a series of running backs, not really necessarily committing to one for very long term. So I think just because of volume, Saquon falls here for me, and to see how he comes back from the ACL, because that is a major one for running backs. Sometimes you get Adrian Peterson. Sometimes you have more of your Larry Johnson types where the explosiveness is gone afterwards. You'll see Saquon great on film.
But first of all, we don't sometimes get Adrian Peterson. Like, that never happens.
You get Adrian Peterson once in a generation.
That dude, when he came back from that ACL, first of all, it was like, how in the hell do you just destroy teams like this?
We're talking about the ACL that he tore in December, and then comes back and puts up 2,000 yards in starting the next September. It's ridiculous. You're talking less than 10 months recovery time for a completely torn ACL. That was just
for somebody like
insane.
Rick and myself, who have both had torn ACLs, we know what that pain is like. There's no way, like, but Saquon's quads and legs, like, so I mean, he's in shape and everything as well. Let me ask you this before we move on, and don't give it away, but did that same logic hurt Christian McCaffrey's spot for you guys, for either one of you?
No, a little bit, but not really. No.
It didn't for me, only because a high ankle sprain is usually an easier one to cover, and they were safe with keeping him out for basically the entire year. He got babied the entire time for a much smaller injury. The ACL being such a devastating injury, because trust me, I had those debates near the top. You have the guys like Dalvin Cook's had an injury before that ended up taking him. He's had a few of those. We've had a good handful of guys we look through on the list. I mean, heck, I already listed Joe Mixon. There's a lot of guys that have had these wear and tears. It's just kind of management and usage to kind of see where I try and put some of those guys on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to. I know we're not there yet. I just wanted to know because a lot of time logic is like injuries will make guys down. To me, Christian McCaffrey is like by far head and shoulders above every other running back in the league. But we're not at number one yet, so I'll save that talk for later. So Rick, tell us why you're. I'm still shocked with this.
You're back.
Chubb at 8.
Chubb at 8. I mean 25. I'm most sites and most information I'm looking at projecting him, 1,300 yards, 1,400 yards. So he's still going to get numbers. Kareem Hunt is there. They have Jarvis Landry, they have Odell, but they were dedicated to the run last year. I know he's low. The concern is Kareem Hunt. As somebody, as a fantasy owner who plays multiple leagues and had Chubb last year, it killed me watching Kareem Hunt take, 35, 40% of Chubb's carries. And I think that only increases with Chubb being in a contract year as potentially a ploy to try and get him to, take less money because his numbers are down. When reality is he should still be getting the ball because he's a dominant runner. He is just a wrecking ball of a man, and it is what it is. But the Kareem Hunt factor cannot be ignored, and so that's why I had to pull him down a little bit.
So you're ranking him based off of the stats that you feel he's going to produce, or you're ranking him just based off of saying he's the best the 7th best running back?
I'm partially doing.
I just want to understand.
Yeah, I'm partially doing it on the stats that I think he's going to produce this year.
Okay, that's fair. No, that's fair.
Now, see, and I'm higher on Chubb, but I will play devil's advocate for a moment. If you consider college and pro carries, Nick Chubb is in the top 5 of active NFL running backs in terms of total carries, which doesn't end up, meaning he'll have necessary long-term. So while Nick Chubb, I still think I have higher on my list. Spoiler alert. I do think, though, that those carries will catch up, especially at something I can always cover slightly later on in regards for that.
Yeah.
But those number of carries, they do end up taking a toll. And for him to already be on that top 5 list out of already 24 starters I have at least listed for the position, that I know will have the confirmed carries and I even considered for these, it is a lot right before going into a contract year. So I will say I have him higher, but if I am Cleveland, I probably look to maybe structure his deal a little bit for some assurances for themselves, just in case.
Yeah, no, I understand. I have him higher as well, but now that Rick told me like how he's grading and how he's placing people, it makes a little bit more sense to me. So, all right, let's roll. What are we at? 6?
6.
7.
Let's do it.
No, 7, because we're at 7.
Or 7. Sorry, yeah, 7. So my 7 is Bryce's 8. My 7 Saquon. And it's almost exactly the same reason and rationale that Bryce gave. It's just, I think he's still going to produce. I think he's still going to come back strong, but he doesn't come back as strong as he started last season or as he started the season before, where he got to play a full healthy season. That knee is still probably going to be workload limited. They're going to rely on some more of the rotational backfield kind of approach to save him from potentially tearing that other ACL that we wouldn't see if he was fully healthy and did not have that injury last year. So Bryce had him at 8. I have him at 7.
Fair.
Where you at, Bryce?
All right, for me, Antonio Gibson. He is in here. The man has such a light workload he's had up to now. He's going to be on that. From what he has showed so far between the tackles, which if you're having a receiver convert to running back, that's one of the first things that you're going to try and point to is how do they do between the tackles. The man has weight, 210 plus. He can hit the hole, and he gets a large number of the work carries. And the big thing is that his backup is J.D. McKissic, a pass-catching back. Well, he's a wide receiver formerly, so at the same time, he can get breaks as he wants them. He's not necessarily having to get pulled out because McKissic offers something different per se.
Gibson won me my league last year.
I have him as keeper in one of our leagues that I do with Rick right here. So it's one of those you're gonna love that one, Rick.
I already saw it. I don't get to draft that year or this year for it. So
yeah, I'm literally keeping Cam Akers, Gibson, and McCaffrey. So yeah.
Ooh. Three of my
Well, that's just first of all, I think people are sleeping on Washington this year. I've been saying it week after week now. Even home, obviously, most of the people who listen to my show are Bills fans. Everybody is just like, oh, we're gonna roll over them I think we play in week 3 or week 4, and I'm like, yo,
that defense
I hope we win. I think that we can win. I think that we're a better team, but that doesn't mean you win every time that you're a better team. You play the game because any given Sunday, any given team can win. Washington is one of those teams this year, and depending on how Fitz plays, dude, Washington can light it up. Like they have everything. For instance, in the chat often, and I know to you guys, and even in our fantasy chat, I always say, I tell you what, if Aaron Rodgers goes to Washington, that's a Super Bowl team. It's literally just a quarterback. So if Deshaun Watson's legal issues go away and he gets traded to Washington, Super Bowl team. Like they're literally.
I don't want to see that.
Away.
I don't want to see that.
You know what? I would like to see that. You wouldn't, because that's your division. I would like to see. I think if all of this stuff is not true, so I want to preface this by saying, if if Deshaun Watson's legal troubles are true, screw that guy completely. He doesn't deserve to touch a football. He doesn't deserve to look at football. He doesn't deserve to even have his name known. But if this stuff is not true, if it's not true, I would like to see him on a team like Washington. I really would like to see him on the team. Like I wanted to see him in San Fran, but they got their guy. I would like to see him in Washington.
As a football fan, I wouldn't mind it. As a divisional rival, I would hate it.
Yeah.
So
no, that's what I said. For you, I could see how that would suck. But okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like 15 extra minutes? Because normally
yeah.
I don't go over at all. But I started this new position, so like things are thrown off, and I know we're not even halfway through the list, and we only got 10 minutes left. So
I'm good.
Boys, let's
okay.
get this thing rolling to get halfway there.
Yeah.
We're halfway there. So I think we should be good with an extra 15. So all right, let's get to we're at 6.
6.
Yep.
Let's get it.
Zeke.
Rick.
I got Zeke.
Oof.
Are you freaking kidding me?
You're just trying to be quick, and then you're like, all right, Zeke.
Yep.
I tried before the show started. I tried to help you, man. What are you doing?
He hit the e-brake in the show. Let's get it moving, guys.
I hit the eject button real quick. No, I mean, if you look at Zeke, he's gonna have improved numbers from last year because Dak's back. I mean, rough projections, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, and almost 400 yards receiving. That's a solid season, and that's better than what he did last year. Last year he was at 984, and part of that was because he could not run. Now, as we discussed pre-show, Bryce mentioned that the 1,000-yard mark is going to be kind of a diminished thing for running backs given the 17 games schedule now. They're going to have to run fewer yards per game in order to hit that mark. That is something that needs to factor in, but I still think Zeke is going to be a top 10 running back this year. I don't think he's top 5, but I think he's top 10, and I think Dak helps that a lot by coming back. And from what the Cowboys have released in terms of practice footage and everything, Dak looks healthy. Now, I know that's a biased opinion and a skewed perspective
I get it.
because they're controlling the narrative on how Dak looks. But
yeah,
I mean, as we discussed earlier, you can't deny what Dak brings to the table in terms of value for the rest of the skill position players. And I think Zeke just has a better season this year than he did last.
Okay. I mean, that's fair based on those, because earlier I'm like, well, no, Dak absolutely makes a difference, blah, blah, blah. But this is what I want to do real quick. I'm being this honest with you, man. I want to make you a bet live on the show.
Let's go.
We got a witness in the chat, and we have everybody that's in the chat on the thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think Zeke gets to 800 yards this year.
You don't think he makes 800 yards?
I don't think he gets 800 yards, and I'm willing to bet you whatever bottle of liquor or beer or whatever. It don't even have to be a drink. Whatever bet you want to make, I'm willing to make it right now.
I'll take that. Let's do it.
All right, 5th on it. If he reaches 800 yards, you got a 5th the moment he does it.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get it.
I'll put it this way. I think Rick might win that bet, but it let me put it this way. It's probably not going to be easy. Remember that number I threw out before the show, talked about Zach Moss. If you're trying to go for a stretch goal, trying to aim high on that 1,000 yards, Zach Moss, if that's shooting for the moon, if you consider the number of carries, whatnot, I have Zeke about 60 yards more than that for the season projected. So like I said, I have him nowhere near ranked what Rick has on this. I have him down here, 16th probably for the season. Tony Pollard has shown very much speed, vision at the position. Zeke doesn't exactly have that. And guess what? Let's play a quick little game for a second. I promise. 5 seconds here. So who's older, Derrick Henry or Ezekiel Elliott?
Henry.
All right, and by how much?
A year.
Oh, well, actually a little over, close to 2. I want you to try and tell me who has more career carries between college and pros, Derrick Henry or Ezekiel Elliott? Henry's 2 years.
I'm gonna guess Henry.
And watch this. Derrick Henry had 600 carries in college. So who do you think had more carries, Zeke or Derrick Henry?
At that point, then I'm gonna say Zeke.
I think it's Zeke. I'm almost positive it's Zeke.
He's had more carries in the pros by almost 300 carries.
See, to me, and that's a good point.
But I feel
like
I feel like that's an injustice.
What injustice?
I feel like
Henry. I also haven't missed any legal troubles to miss any suspensions.
Slight injustice because wasn't Derrick Henry's first year the last year with?
You're having connection issues here, so I'm gonna take Rick out for a moment till he gets his stuff right. I'm gonna tell you about the reason why I don't think he'll get. It looks like he's right. Are you good now? Maybe not. Okay. Here, okay. I'll edit that out in the show. You guys won't hear this tomorrow. But if The thing is, the reason why I say I don't think he's even gonna hit that many yards is because I feel like he's just not good. and you know how people like we always talk about running backs and we talk about how they hit a cliff once they hit, normally the age is 30, right? I get that too. I don't think that the age is not the age thing with him.
Mhm.
I think it's the usage. I think it's the way they used him in Dallas his first couple seasons there.
Mhm.
All carries aren't created equally. So when you're talking about the amount of carries that he had, yeah, you're right. He had a ton of carries, but aside from him having those carries, he took some beatings on those carries. Derrick Henry gives beatings out. It's a different body type and it's a different type of offense. I think Zeke is done. And I'm not, it's no hatred. Like if he makes it, I'm happy for the guy.
Yeah. I still think 1,000 yards he's going to end up hitting, but it's going to be that barely factor that we have on that. Tony Pollard, the offense moves faster with him. He moves faster. Zeke is not particularly fast. A lot of times he's hitting the hole, and what he does after that, I don't really necessarily say he does much of anything outside of that. He's got a long stride, but so does Derrick Henry. But you see, again, like we talk about, the man gives out the punishment. He doesn't receive it. And again, Zeke has over a season's worth more of usage, and that's considering that they were within 7 carries of having the same amount in college.
Mm-hmm.
And Zeke also even spent the extra time he had to spend off field. Does that mean that Henry's gotten high usage? Yes, but he's still behind what Zeke's done in the same time frame. So as much as I say that, because as we'll get to Henry at some point along the way, there's all the facts that they say that, Henry's probably due for an injury at that kind of workload, that size of a guy, something could possibly end up going wrong in that. But you end up looking at someone like Zeke and we get a pass on him and we drop him up as high as possible, ignoring all the things that have happened with him and his usage rate on that.
Yeah, and you're talking about you're talking about Henry, and you're like, he passes out, we know he passes out that type of he's such a monster. This is what this guy does. This is Derrick Henry.
I love that for multiple reasons.
Yeah, he throws Josh Norman all over the place. So when we're talking about like running backs, you're not going to see Zeke do that.
No,
Zeke don't be throwing people out of bounds. So.
Henry in grass.
All right, well, let's get to 5. Oh wait, you didn't give yours, right?
Oh yeah, no, my 6 right here. I'll keep it short. We already partially covered it. Jonathan Taylor. I have him there. The man ends up, like I said, the offense, he does well. He did have a high usage for college. Like I said, just one of my factors on that. But even one of the things I have for him for this year, his usage, one second, let me find it. His usage, I have him, he's going to be getting about 57% of the carry. He's getting about 1,200 yards on that. I mean, that and honestly, like I said, in our passing game in the NFL, that's still going to be reasonable because he's still also going to be getting about 10% of the targets in the passing game. He's going to be making about 3% of the offense.
I'm starting him every week. Every week I'm starting.
Oh, no, why would you at that point? Anything else?
Without a doubt.
Because at that point, I'd put on the bye week just in case. He's going to get numbers.
Yeah. Just throw him in there. Like, dude, first of all, shout out to my guy, Eli. I don't know if he's watching tonight or if he's in here. Mm-hmm. Look, everybody, in our Dynasty League, I have J.K. Dobbins. I have J.K. Dobbins. I have freaking both the rookies, like both of them.
Travis Etienne and Najee Harris.
Jonathan Taylor, which already just mentioned, like we just mentioned on there too. So
I'm about to be nasty with it this year. But anyway, okay, 5.
All right. I'll hop in with Mambo number 5 on this one. Let's go ahead and go with Derrick Henry. That's where I have him on that. So I guess kind of already covering some of that. He's a long strider, so at the same time, ironically, he doesn't necessarily get you sometimes the short yards you want, but again, he turns them into grass. And like I said, I don't know if anyone's seen from him working out this year. Let's say the guy's still putting in plenty of work. He looks a lot quicker than anything I've seen Ezekiel look like during any point of his career. Like, and that's not like trying to throw like repeated shade at Zeke, but it's just that Derrick Henry is a large man moving very fast, and there's not a lot of people who can get in that way.
Zeke trash. Go ahead.
Thanks. No, all right. I'll go with my 5, and I'm gonna preface this with saying that this ranking is based on a lot of hearsay in what's going on with the team as a whole and with the quarterback situation. But I'm gonna rank Aaron Jones 5. Ooh. I think with the kind of question mark that is Aaron Rodgers, if things have to switch to Jordan Love, then they are going to rely on him heavily to help Jordan Love develop and to get comfortable within the offense and within that division, honestly. I mean, there's not a great run-stopping defense, really, that I can think of with maybe the exception of Minnesota in that division, Chicago's defense isn't as formidable as it used to be with run stopping, and Detroit has some question marks. So I think Aaron Jones, if Jordan Love is the starter, gets utilized extremely high compared to what he has done in the past. Now, if Aaron Rodgers is there, he probably falls off a little bit, but I still think they utilize him. I think that they gave him a great deal of workload last year. He's built confidence within the offense, within Aaron Rodgers, and built that trust. I think he gets utilized, but based on the conversation about Aaron Rodgers and the big question mark that leads to, I have Aaron Jones ranked 5 just because I think he gets used no matter what.
Bryce, you're a Packers fan, and so I'm going to ask you this question. You can answer it and then go right into your 5.
Sure.
I just don't see Aaron Rodgers not playing in Green Bay this year. Like I don't. If he plays football, to me, it's in Wisconsin. Do you see it any other way?
No. Short version is, if you look at the way his cap lines out, if they were to trade him, they would end up nearly paying the exact same amount. And when you put Aaron Rodgers on a team, that team's going to have a 20th or higher rated first-round pick every year. So it would be foolish of them to do so. Now, next year, there are outs for them. They do have a lot of guys they're having to worry about trying to pay, like Devontae Adams. They have Jair Alexander coming up. They got to get Zadarius Smith. They got to get his cap number down, which they could get via extension, as well as you have rising stars like Darnell Savage and Rashawn Gary. They're going to be coming up. And this is all within the next 2 years. And that's not even including Elgton Jenkins that they have over at the left guard spot, the perennial All-Pro, or at the position. When you include all those things, then I didn't necessarily see the reason per se for taking the chance of paying Aaron Jones the money they did. And I think when you consider how much they have coming up, Aaron Rodgers going next year, I think is a better than 50% chance. But as of this year, it has a less than 1% chance. I think at this point, the only thing is it's about money. As we talked about with quarterback deals, Aaron Rodgers' contract falls around, it's going to be around 8th or 9th next year at that cap figure average. Is that what you're going to be paying that guy? No. That's a trash number to be paying him. So he's going to need more money. But as the list of players already said, they also need to get paid as well. And at some point, as we've talked about with, you remember from your Josh Allen ranking that you had 4, it is still a team game. So when you have these pieces, would you rather have Devontae Adams, Jair Alexander, Elgton Jenkins, Rashad Gary, Darius Smith? It's one of those, how many guys do I have to name before you go, you know what? I would rather take them in that sense than per se having to lose those guys in order to have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers complains about not being able to get over the hump right there, get that win. They're not surrounding him with talent, but him getting another contract that tacks on another $10 million to his figure is only going to make it harder for them to be able to do so, especially if he locks up that money long term.
Yeah. I just, like I said, every time we talk privately, it's always just like, I don't feel like Rodgers really has leverage in this situation. Like I get, he just can't show up. Like he can decide not to show up, but other than that, I don't think he really has leverage. Like, dude, you're going to play this year for the Packers or you're not going to play football. Like show up and let's shut up.
$5 million. So like, again, you can say, but you have to pay back $25 million to Aaron Rodgers. That's nothing, but you still got to write that check and send it back and commit to that at that point.
Yeah.
So,
and look, like you said, to Aaron Rodgers is like, it's not a lot, but it's a lot. Like that's
still a lot.
I don't care who you are. Like you could be I don't know, whatever billion. Yeah. There's a bunch of billionaires right now. I guarantee you they would miss a check for $25 million.
You don't lose that, forget about it.
Ask Jeff Bezos how much he misses $25 million. I mean, he just lost half of his fortune. So
yeah. I'm sure he'll recoup that quick. But
he'll be
all right. So you're number 5, Bryce.
All right, I know my number 5 is Derrick Henry, as we kind of covered on that. Like I said, high usage, but like I said, it turns him into grass. Like I said, I know we kind of covered that. I think we're on Rick's number 5 now.
No, my 5 was Jones, so we would be on either my 4 or your 4. Why don't you go ahead and give us the 4?
All right, well, I got Chubb, so that's where I'm going on that. The man still ends up being the production. He's a contract year. Contract year running backs have proven to be able to doing better numbers than that. And even from a front office perspective, this might be the last chance you have to get the guy at this kind of a price. You have no problem running him into the ground because if he holds up to it, he gets a contract, and if he doesn't, you made some smart money out of
it. That's fair.
Very fair.
My 4 goes to Antonio Gibson. I had him a little bit higher than you did, but as you mentioned, he's going to get used, and he presents a extremely difficult matchup challenge for anybody because with his ability to catch out of the backfield, linebackers really aren't going to be able to cover him. As somebody who watched him twice last year just eat up my secondary and my linebacking core, he's going to get used. And Fitzpatrick is there. He's going to sling the ball, but he's going to sling it to whomever he can. And Antonio Gibson's going to eat. He's going to get the carries, and he's going to be a beast.
Dude, if Fitz don't turn the ball over, I'm gonna just tell you that. And I know we just had a moment where I just had a rant about Washington. I have a crush on Washington this year. I'm telling you,
they're
the
dangerous.
roster is deep, and I don't know if it's just that like a lot of fan bases obviously just love their team and they don't want to give credit where it's due. But they have a heck of a coach who knows how to build rosters, and and players play hard for him. And he, man. Dude, the roster that he built, I'm just seriously, I have a crush on that team this year. I really, for the NFC, I'm debating on if I'm gonna claim, the Cardinals since I live here now, or if I want to actually be like, nah, this year Washington is gonna be my pick for the NFC. I really think the NFC should be on lookout. Seriously.
I mean, yes, the NFC East is a weak division in general. We already know that. That was evident by last year. But I mean, look at what they did and how well they held their own against Tampa Bay in that wild card game. I mean, that defense is solid and it's just young and getting better. So
with no QB,
and they still, gave a game against the now Super Bowl champions. So it's a little bit terrifying as somebody who plays in that division.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you see what the Super Bowl champions did against last season's Super Bowl champions. You know what I mean? Like they dismantled them, and then Washington held their own. I'm just saying,
it was impressive.
Sleeping on Washington, man. We sleeping on them. But all right, let's move to 4.
So that was my 4. My 4 was Antonio Gibson.
3.
So 3. I got Dalvin Cook. I like Dalvin Cook. I like Minnesota. They've utilized him like no tomorrow, and from everything I'm reading, everything I'm looking at, he's going to get the utilization again. I mean, some sites are projecting close to almost 2,000 combined yards in terms of rushing and receiving. And if he does that, those are just monster numbers that are going to help Kirk Cousins and, the rest of that offense be a weapon and a just formidable force. Now, they have Jefferson, who showed up big last year. Justin Jefferson had an amazing rookie season, and they have Adam Thielen as well. So you've got the receivers there, and Madison's a great backup, but Dalvin Cook still is just kind of on a different level than what Madison can provide. And I think they use Dalvin Cook as much as they can. The injuries are a concern, but he's gonna get the ball and he's gonna eat.
Yeah, no, I like Dalvin Cook. I think if I was to do it, he would be 3 for me as well. Like when I did do the list, I had Dalvin Cook at 3. Where are you at, Bryce?
And for me, you know what? Since considering how I have Dalvin Cook at 2 anyway, for a second, we'll just keep the conversation going, and then I'll switch back to my 3 on that. Save us some time. Dalvin Cook, I think the reason why I have him slightly higher than you guys do is because of the fact that we know what his offense is going to be, and we know where he's going to be getting his work. In this case, compared to the other person that we're dealing with ranking swaps on these, Kamara, we know Kamara's going to get a ton in the passing game. His backup gets a lot more of the between the tackles rush work, and we don't really know between Jameis how he will do in the Sean Payton offense on whether or not we're going to be going vertical all the time. Remember, Bruce Arians' offenses have kind of been known for being running back killers per se, which means we might not get as much rush work, period. We might see not as many checkdowns. As we know, every linebacker in the NFC South has 3 interceptions thanks to Jameis Winston. So, or you have Taysom Hill, who, well, let's face it, we can call him a quarterback, but we can also call him a tight end. So,
no, it's Jameis's team. It's
Jameis. Oh no, trust me, I agree on that. But it's one of those where what are we going to see from this little swap out game for 2 seconds to run a cute wildcat play, basically? But I think that's because of the reason that at least I know. Well, Kirk Cousins, we have our opinions. We know what the Vikings are going to do with Dalvin Cook, and I rest that as something that you could probably count on if you were saying who is going to do better between the two. So I know at this point we're just doing the splitting hairs, but at least that's why I have Cook ahead of Kamara, as opposed to I could see some explosiveness and some plays in space while you might have Kamara over Cook.
Now, I'll be honest, because first, Rick, you have Kamara at 2, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to Well, I'm going to be honest. So with Kamara, I actually had him a little bit lower on my list when I did it. Not in a sense of, trust me, I know what the guy, I know the numbers. I honestly haven't watched a ton of New Orleans over the last couple of years. So I've made a dedication to try and watch every team's season from last year. So I'm through half the league right now. I will get to I think that'll be my next team. Right now, I'm currently watching the Raiders. So when I finish the Raiders, I'll watch, and I've seen them because obviously I've seen games that they played in, but I was watching from other teams' perspective. So I'll watch New Orleans, and I'll have a better take on Alvin, because I know he's a beast. I had him at 5 on my list, but I don't see him enough to say like dude is 2 or 3. So I respect both your guys' opinion. Why do you have him at 2, Rick?
I got him at 2 just because of the utilization with how Sean Payton's going to use him going forward with Jameis Winston as quarterback. He got a lot of utilization last year because as we talked about extensively at the dog park, Drew Brees' arm just could not throw that deep ball, so the check down was huge. I don't think Jameis utilizes the check down as much, but I think they do a lot more RPO design runs that just get Kamara out on the edges to where he beats everybody. He's a beast in space, and he is just lightning quick when it comes to running. So,
wait, you running RPOs with Jameis?
Or sorry, not RPO. With Taysom.
Okay, I was about to say, man, like James.
Not with Jason. Not with Jameis. With Taysom, because I mean they signed Taysom to that ridiculous contract, so they're going to utilize him as their gadget player like they have before.
I just don't think there's going to be enough plays that and I'm sure like all it takes is one big play to change a game, but I don't think there's going to be enough of those plays. I know there's a ton of people with that fear. For instance, in our league, a couple people didn't want to draft Jameis because they're like, well, no, Taysom is going to take snaps. I, honest to God, I don't think that Sean Payton is dumb enough to literally completely throw off any type of momentum his team might have on offense to really like switch quarterbacks that much in and out, in and out, in and out. What I think Sean Payton for the first time last year, or maybe second, because he had Drew Brees for the last few years. It's not like he just fell off a cliff. He had I just think he wants to air it out now, man. Like honest to God, like just listening to the interviews that I've listened to in the past and just reading the beat reporters and all that stuff that from down there, it just seems like, okay, we've been doing these gadget plays and we've been leaning on Kamara. We want to get that ball in the air and we want to see what our number one wide receiver, what he can do
when he gets paid $20 million a year. Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, so I kind of think that they're really looking forward to Jameis's LASIK surgery, like helping his vision, turning the ball over less. I also think Sean Payton is far better of a coach than Bruce Arians and like anybody that Jameis has ever possibly had. I think that Sean Payton is a better coach. So I think we're going to see a better version of honestly, I think Jameis is going to be comeback player of the year. I think he's absolutely going to make people remember why he was drafted so high.
And I think the year under Brees probably helped him a lot in terms of learning how to play a true quarterback position from the pocket. Because, like we said, Brees couldn't throw a deep ball last year really because of his arm strength, but he could still make plays. He was still throwing 4,500, 5,000 yards last year.
Well, let me ask you this, because Daniel says that New Orleans will miss Drew Brees a lot. Do you agree with that? I don't mean it from a sense of who Drew Brees is as a legend to the community. I don't mean it in a sense of like I literally mean what we watched last year. And you just said you feel like he still had a good year, I guess. But from what we saw, do you think they'll miss him, or do you think it's time to move on?
Begrudgingly, I think it's time to move on. I think his shoulder and his arm was not what it had been in years past, and so it was time to get a younger arm in there. I mean, unfortunately, he's had multiple shoulder injuries. He had the surgery back in 2009 that fixed a lot, or I'm sorry, 2005, 2006, that fixed a lot of it. But we talked about it extensively at the dog park. He was not throwing very many deep balls last year. A lot of his deep routes and his deep plays were wide receivers with yards after catch. And so I think giving that dynamic back to New Orleans and giving them the ability to stretch the field is going to be huge. I don't think they'll miss him, but I don't think it's going to be as steep a drop off as some people consider.
I was trying to find the advanced passing stats on that while you were talking,
Mhm.
because yards after catch is a huge stat for a lot of quarterbacks that it makes their contracts. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying Drew Brees has always been a yak guy.
No.
Last year, the big plays he got, it was a yak thing. He was
Yeah.
that dude was not throwing the ball more than 7 yards. So
No.
like it just but even that, like he played a total of 12 games last year, and he had 2,900 yards, 70% completion. So I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's Drew Brees. But when you hear 70% completion, it's like, oh my God, he had a great year. But come on, like he's throwing it
Always open.
So his average distance traveled.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take a guess?
6.5.
What do you think?
I'm gonna go under 6.
Both of you are very close. It's 7.08.
All right.
So less than 8 yards a pass.
Less than 8 yards a pass. So when you're talking about that, it's like I just can't. The way the game is played today, I just cannot believe that they're going to miss him if you got a guy like Jameis. And I don't think Jameis is better. I think he's better for what the league is right now. So like when you put Jameis in there, yeah, he might have 8 more interceptions, but he's also going to give you another 1,500 yards pass, and he's going to give you some deep balls. Thomas, if Sanders was still there, Emmanuel Sanders and Thomas would have ached this year.
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of people with Jameis just knock on him because of the fact that he had that 30-30 season. He had 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, but what they forget is he still had almost, 5,000 yards, if not more, that season. So he was still putting up numbers. Yes.
He was just turning it over. Yeah.
He was just turning it over. But, I mean, in terms of yardage and what he was doing, he was still actually, putting the ball in the air. It's just his interception numbers were obviously nowhere near what you want them to be.
Yeah.
And for me,
all right,
I'd say in terms of missing Drew Brees, I feel like there is some that they will end up missing, only in the extent that Drew Brees knew how to hit an open guy and knew how to hit a guy open. We don't necessarily see that from a lot of the intermediate game from Jameis. So I think that the big question won't be whether or not Jameis is capable of it, but it's whether or not the weapons that we've seen around can necessarily live up to that. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, of course, have their spots already, in place where there's no doubt of their talent. But everything else on this roster, you have a lot of question marks about it. I mean, after all, Traquan Smith can outrun just about anything that not named Tyreek Hill, but yet he never became that because Drew Brees didn't throw a deep ball. But at the same time, but now we have the opportunity. Will he be coming down with those 50-50 balls? Will he end up being able to thrive with going up and getting the high point on those catches? Those are questions. We have Callaway that they picked up last year that they have for running similar style routes. And we have Troutman, which is this huge fancy name that we bring up. But the question is, will Jameis be looking for him in an offense that didn't, when he was in his time in Tampa, Bruce Arians' offense, didn't utilize tight ends as much. And you consider the fact that, again, we don't know how good Troutman is per se when actually in that role. So I think the big question won't be whether or not Drew Brees will be missed. It'll be whether or not they actually need Drew Brees. Because it's not whether or not they miss them, but it turns out, it's like how we talked about Lamar. You could put Lamar, Baker, you could switch them. Teams are both just as good, if not maybe one team better. Putting Drew Brees on other teams, you would still have only a certain ceiling of it because the guy can't complete the ball beyond, 8 yards, as we talked about. Mm-hmm. However, Jameis, if he's going to be throwing, remember, he made a lot of those yards being able to say, hey, you know what, Mike Evans is somewhere out there, Chris Godwin's out there somewhere. I'm going to get it, and you go make a play because you're good enough. I don't have to hit this thing on a dime. I just have to get this and this about the square footage of about this big, and I know you're going to come down with it. So that's my thing, is that it's whether or not the team will have the talent afterwards. Not what Jameis does. I think Jameis will do plenty of things in the position. But we might have had, in this case, the offense always ranked a little bit high when we realized it was honestly just a funnel to Kamara, a funnel to Thomas, and then everyone else on the field, wasn't nearly as what we maybe thought for what was supposed to be a high-level offense.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, man. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm gonna watch them next, and I got, I think, 3 more games for Oakland. Good grief! I got 3 more games for Las Vegas, and then I'll pick up the Saints games. So it sounds like we're at number 1, and I feel like we all have the same guy here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that out there. This guy looks like my quarterback right now from his rookie season, jumping over a Viking. Josh Allen was hurdling over guys. Or do you not have this guy at number 1?
Well, I mean, I Blair, but I'm just kidding. I know. Come on, of course, Christian McCaffrey. Why would you not?
I was about to say, are you kidding?
CMC has to be the number 1.
I was literally about to end the show. I wasn't even going to do the outro, none of that stuff. I was just going to end it.
Go home, I promise. All right, like no worries. I got you there too.
I do want to say this before I let you guys give your take and then we get out of here. This picture of Christian I know for the people listening on podcast, you can't see it, but I'm showing an image of Christian McCaffrey hurdling one of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I promise you, the reason why I love this picture so much is because it allows me to flex with my quarterback. Like, there are no quarterbacks in the league doing crap that running backs do. Like, I get it. They're talking about Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Lamar Jackson does that stuff. But I'm talking about this. This is Josh Allen. This is Josh Allen-esque. That's what I'm going to start calling it. I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey is the Josh Allen of running backs. That's how I'm about to start doing it. Christian McCaffrey is the Josh Allen of running backs. Now, I just did all that because I'm a Bills fan. Let's go. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'm glad you finally included Josh Allen at running back then as your number one pick then. So that way we corrected the previous top 10. So hopefully everyone handles that well. No, CMC's got that delay. He has that waiting for the hole. I mean, you know what? The real question, if we want to try on time, is what does he not do? Like it's really hard. Like injuries, probably one of the biggest things, or maybe that because he has a Chuba Hubbard behind him. But even Chuba Hubbard isn't a bruising back, so he'll just come in when he needs to take get a Gatorade break. That's about it.
You know what bothers me about Christian McCaffrey though? Not him.
Yeah,
it sucks because I really feel like he's only going to have like a 6-year career, and I don't wish injury on anybody. I do not wish it on anybody. But like you just said a second ago, you're just like, what does he not do? Like, what does he do? It's like, dude, you literally do everything. You're the running back. Then after you run for 100 yards, you receive 70 yards. Hell, they might as well just let him line up behind center and throw for 300 next season too.
They have. That's the thing. Is like they've done a couple of those gadget plays where he throws and he ends up throwing a 25, 30-yard pass. And you're just like, what is going on here? Like, how do you do this? He is just another level in terms of a skill player. He is the epitome of what a skill player is.
But again, that's why, and I know I was joking about it, but I actually really do compare him to Josh Allen. One of the things, I don't think Josh Allen is the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is either. But right now, I think athletically, I think they're the most freakishly gifted athletes in the NFL. People argue with that. There are other people that can throw names in there, like Saquon before he got in, and still, like I think
Aaron Donald.
Well, Aaron Donald, that's a different stratosphere. No, really, that's a different stratosphere. I'm talking about especially. I think Christian McCaffrey doesn't get the respect that he deserves because he's white, and I this is one of those things. You know me, Rick, you absolutely know me. I try not to kind of do the race thing, but this is reverse. This is absolutely 100%. If a black dude, who was your second? Daniel Cook or Dalvin Cook. If Dalvin Cook did everything that Christian McCaffrey did, they would be saying he's better than Bo Jackson. We'd be hearing stuff like he's
better than Barry. He's better than Emmett. Like seriously, if those would be the type of conversations. If 5 years ago, if Shady was doing everything that Christian McCaffrey's doing, Shady would be the greatest running back in Buffalo Bills, and he probably is the greatest running back in Eagles history. But it's like he would have. So I hate let's keep this energy even. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey is absolutely a stud, and even with 100%. Us saying he's number one, he's still underrated. And I don't know how that happens, but the dude is freaking amazing. And I wish and I pray to God that we ever can get a running back like this in Western New York one time. Well, and I mean, I think the thing with Christian McCaffrey is that not only does he make your top, he's the number one running back consensus. We all agree on that. But he probably makes a lot of people's top 25 wide receiver list too. And there's nothing wrong with that because he puts up those numbers.
You know what he is? He's what Le'Veon Bell thought he was.
Yes.
It's the same style running too, with the stutter step until the hole opens, and then he can get to full speed in it's ludicrous speed. You know what they have for the Teslas, where it's just and they're gone.
Yes, and Bell was nice. Bell was nice. He was super nice, but he was nice. I feel like he was nice based on the offensive line and the system that they had in Pittsburgh. Yeah. He's talented, but I think he fit perfectly. He
benefited, yes.
I think Christian McCaffrey can go on any team and do Barry Sanders-ish things. He's just ridiculous. So, okay, I'm done with my spiel, but go ahead and finish with your analysis here.
course.
No, I'm good. I mean, that's my thing with Christian.
I mean, like I said, I've been doing plenty of scouting on the colleges. Like I said, I've been keeping track for a lot of stuff involving Dynasty, fantasy football, stuff like that. I've been scouting guys who I've found that look like the next Dalvin Cook. I've been finding guys that look like the next Zeke. I haven't found anyone so far that looks like the next Christian McCaffrey. A lot of these other players on the list, whether it be you find guys like Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kevin Harris, there are a lot of quality running backs that are coming around, but none of them are showing anything, even compared to college tape, of the vision, patience, and the utility that Christian McCaffrey had. He's really one of one.
Yeah, and
absolutely
I mean,
one of one.
And that's why, like we talked about it, I'm wearing my CMC jersey to the Panthers Cardinals game when they come out here, because he's just different. And you and I talked about it, like you were debating on which one to get, CMC or Cam, and you're like, nah, it's got to be
stick
CMC.
with Cam, but I might
CMC's
go with CMC.
right there. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. Like you hurt my feelings, because I'm like, I already had it planned out. I'm like, all right, Cam, I'm gonna get the Carolina blue one, because I got my Carolina blue Jordan 12s, like, you know. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna have it crisp. And then you sent me that McCaffrey, and I'm like, yeah, I might have to switch that. I might have to do it. So, right. But hey, so our consensus pick here is Christian McCaffrey as the number one best running back in the NFL. Listen, fellas, I want to thank y'all for coming on, man. Like, this was fun for me. Like, normally it's like heavy talk, and I'm always like really debating. It's fun to really, you know, just talk to some fellas and chop it up. So we'll have to do this one time during the season too. Like when
absolutely.
Actually, you're coming out here for the Packers game, right?
Yeah.
Out there for
we might have to,
Thursday night.
Yeah. We'll get one in person or something. We'll figure that out. Schedule. Right.
And I gotta apologize real quick, because I just realized that I didn't mention Derrick Henry on my list. He was actually my 6, so he was right where Bryce had him. Everybody else moves down. So Henry at 6, Zeke 7, Saquon 8, Chubb 9, Jonathan Taylor 10. I know I'm getting crap for the Chubb one and Jonathan Taylor, but I had to make sure I had Derrick Henry in there.
No, well, in reality, though, when you really look at it, the top 5 guys you named, like, so again, it's one of those things. Like, it's hard for me to be like, all right, well, who am I taking out the top 5? Like, am I going to take Cook out the top 5? Am I going to take Henry out the top 5 to put Chubb there? Am I going to? So that's what I said. Like, I respect it. It's all, you know. It's an absolute great conversation to have. I wish that we kind of had some more time. We can run this back and do this again. I also want to do wide receivers or something. So we'll talk about it. Let's get this thing happening. Bryce, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter or Instagram or whatever you got going on?
I'm sure you can find me Cheese Sando Twitter. I'm always around for sarcastic takes about stuff or anything involving fantasy football. I know a lot of weird leagues. If you're trying to think of something good, then, like I said, that's kind of a lot of the things in my wheelhouse. Like I said, always around for chat. Cheese Sando on Twitter.
Let's get it.
I'm at RamHusky7 on Twitter, and just like Bryce, I'm always down for a fantasy conversation, general football conversation, or Bryce is the meme master, but I'm always down to go back and forth with some people on it. So the trash talk is fun, and I know I had the homer pick with Zeke in there, so I'm gonna catch some grief on it, but let's do it.
Are you gonna eventually allow your account to be open?
I opened it up today. I'm just ahead of this. Yeah. No, I knew this was gonna open up a whole nother level, so I was like, let's just open it up so I don't get the requests coming through all the time, and let's do it.
All right, well, let's get it. Everybody go follow my man Rick. Go follow my man Bryce. These are family to me out here in Arizona, even though Bryce is in California. This is family to me. So I appreciate you guys for coming on. And y'all know how I do it here. It's your boy JSpenceTheKing. Every single Monday night, I'm going to be here on the YouTube network with Buffalo Rumblings. Tuesdays, you can listen to this played back as a pod. And then every Wednesday, join me and my brother, my man Joe Miller, for the Hump Day Hotline as we do it. You already know how that goes. Show up and be part of the show. Let's do it. Hey, everybody, love each other. Take care of each other and live in peace. And as always, stay positive and test negative. Go Bills. Let's get it.